Good afternoon. Call to order the regular meeting of the Tiki Island City Council on Tuesday, January the 16th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the Public Safety Building. Roll call, Telchik here, Neblett.
Here.
Cunningham.
Here.
Kaufman.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Citizen comments. Comments limited to 2 minutes. Must have filled out sign-in sheet. Yes, sir.
Yeah, one thing I want to bring up is concern for one item on communications.
Yes, sir.
I think it's item K. We still have some work to do on our website, and I'm hopefully looking to do some things with that. I know our communication has got a lot better, but we still have room to grow there. I'll talk with Patty, and I'll let Patty discuss that later. You know, she has some ideas on how to address that. But the main thing is I want to discuss as far as communication, and also along the same lines. I hope y'all discuss the marina tonight. We need an update on that. I hope that's part of under that item too. So, but anyway, main thing I want to discuss when it comes to communications. How many of y'all were aware of the release at Marathon here a few weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay, so we had no notification of that. Which actually it didn't affect us, but it did affect Bio Vista. But Bio Vista was never notified either. They found out through some plant workers who just happened to be home that day. Texas City got bombarded with phone calls from them because they could smell the vapors. Texas City put in a shelter in place up to I-45, everything south of the plant. I guess my question is, and I'm glad Mike's here and Jason and Adrian, do we have a plan to be notified in the situation? I talked to the EOC director in Texas City the next day to find out what their protocol was. And Jason, you can follow up on this because you're a Texas City firefighter. But he told me when they have a release like that, they send all the Texas City fire trucks have air monitoring equipment on them. So they'll send them out into the community. Now, granted, I don't know how far they come over towards Bio Vista, and if it's not a recordable level, he said they don't order a shelter in place. And then I asked him about notifying those communities just out of courtesy, like Tiki and Bio Vista. We're 5 miles at the crow flies. There's nothing between us. In the last 15 years, we've been sprayed once by BP, and we've been sprayed once by Marathon. So I guess to y'all guys, how is that communicated? So even if they did notify us, whose job is it to notify the public to shelter in place? Go a step further, you have a barge collision south of here at the Intercoastal, 2 o'clock Saturday morning. Brandy's not here, you're not here, the chief's not here, neither chief's here. How is that communicated to the residents? Do we have a plan for that?
Can
So
we have you address it when we hit the item?
Okay, so.
Okay.
And there's one other thing. Speaking of the communication, they're moving a house down Tiki Drive in a couple of weeks. I'm sure you're aware of that. Daryl, you're aware of that, right?
Yeah, it hasn't been permitted, Jeff.
It hasn't been permitted, but it's coming in a couple of weeks. And this is for the, has anybody, Jason or Adrian, has anybody notified y'all of that?
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, see, that's the type of thing. That house is 26 foot wide. Tiki Drive is 24 foot wide. The mover could scoot over in one of the bike paths fine, and his plan was, I thought he had already talked to these guys, his plan was to move over as far as he can into one of the bike lanes where we can let vehicle traffic by one. But that's 7/10 of a mile from Cobra to right here on Tiki Drive by Tahiti, I think is where it's going. So that's 7/10 of a mile. They're going to have that roadblock where I don't think a fire truck or an ambulance can get by. So that's something that we need to consider and look into. And maybe y'all have some answers to that already. So
Okay. Let's talk about that in the other one. That's not an agenda item. We can talk about it after citizen comments on the other end. Okay. Any other comments on agenda items? All right. Consent agenda. All items marked with a single asterisk on consent agenda are considered routine by the city council and will be acted upon in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests it. A, approval of the minutes of the November 21st, 2023 regular meeting and November 27th, 2023 special meeting. B, Secretary Treasurer's report. Secretary's Treasurer's report, payment of bills for November and December 2023. C, Investment Officer's report for November and December 2023. Any discussion?
Yes. My packet does not have any payment of bills for November or December 2023.
Well, I think maybe the copy machine just didn't spit it out. I'll give you my copies.
She'll give you her copy right now.
Everybody else has had it.
Yes.
And then I had a question, it's probably a question for Bridget. Is abstaining and not voting the same thing?
Correct.
Okay, so if somebody abstains or recorded and not votes, the same thing?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood that.
Do you want mine? I don't need timing.
Yeah, I will, thank you.
He's got it. Any other discussion?
On the 21st meeting, on items F and G, there was a note that said no action is necessary if item E is passed, and that was not true at the time. So it's just, we probably ought to just cross through it or just make a note of it. It ends up that E and F and G all pass. So, we ended up taking, like that's what I'm saying, is we ended up taking a vote anyway, even though that note was there. So.
Okay.
And I just wanted to bring up, Brandy put a new report in that I had asked for, where we show the budget as a percent of the annual. And she did that almost like the last 3 or 4 days, so I wanted to thank her for that. I appreciate it.
Very helpful.
This is the kind of thing I like to see myself, about how much percent we're spent for the year. We didn't have that before.
Can I make an additional request to Joel on that? Can we also do it as and I can help you do it as a table where it basically, because you can basically straight line the budget if you want over 12 months and then show where we are relative to that. Because some of these, like I flagged where it shows we're already at 68% on a receivable, which seems like they were grossly underestimated what we're gonna get on a revenue side. So it'd be good to see where we are relative to budget, kind of on that month to month as well.
Yeah, we can talk about that and get with her.
Oh, That's on the interest
You can-
income?
Yeah,
That was,
you can get with her after tomorrow or something and do that,
I
'cause
have
that's
an
not,
example
yeah.
specifically I can show you from
Okay.
someplace else.
Then, yeah, there's no payment of November, December bills in your packet, or his packet, or his packet. I don't think.
Well, it's actually the one that she just got finished talking about. It's not, it's the expenses.
You have these?
That's the budget.
Our budget,
He's looking for the itemized
we
check
usually have
rate,
itemized check rate.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's not,
Oh.
Which is payment of bills for November, December, so we don't have that.
well, that was payment of the bills, but it's just in a different form, yeah.
Okay, put it back in the other form. Any other questions?
Okay.
Discussion?
We can approve it minus the bills for November, December.
Okay, I get a motion?
Make it with those two things excluded.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mayor and Alderman's report. Reports are limited to items of community interest as defined by the Texas Local Government Code, Section 551.0415 point. No action will be taken. Mayor's report, there's not one. Alderman's report. Neblett?
The November approved crack sealing and concrete work was finished safely, on time, and within budget. Looks good to me. Haven't heard anything to the contrary from anybody in the community, and thank you all for your support of that project to keep our roads in good shape.
Kaufman?
Are you gonna update us on the marina?
I'll update you on the
Is that gonna
marina.
be your report?
I'll do it when you get back here. Y'all wanted to, on
Okay.
communications. That's what you
No
want.
report.
Okay? Cunningham?
The garage doors and openers down below have all been replaced except for ones. They're waiting on a spring, so hopefully by early next week that'll be in and that project will be 100% complete.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
I'm gonna report on basically items I and J, so.
Okay.
Right now.
Walker?
Good.
Okay, thank you. Reports and presentation, fire department?
It was a pretty normal month, the month of December. We had 11 medical calls, 3 lift assists, 1 motor vehicle accident, 4 minor fires, 2 mutual aids given to Bayou Vista, 1 received from Bayou Vista, for a total of, with 1 councilman route, total of 20 calls, and the 4 minor fires was 2 stroke fires, 1 outside cooking fire, and then 1 electric fire. We also had a good smoke from the house on that fire as well.
Thank you. Police report?
Wait, before you go. Can I
Oh,
ask-
okay.
can I
Do
ask
what?
A question, and this is an education question for me. So on the personnel roster that shows here all the time, there's a whole bunch of vacants that have been there a long time. Are those positions that will truly be filled, or that's just the spreadsheet you have? or-
That's just a spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet.
For example, Alan Smith is 1725. We have actually a number for the helmets.
Yeah.
And so therefore, to, in a sense, get rid of all the yellows, because those would technically be volunteer positions.
Right,
And we just are not getting any more volunteers that.
I mean, you'd like to fill them, right?
Yeah, we like.
yeah, that's my question.
But
Is
with volunteers is what they're.
Yeah.
yeah, so if you could fill them, you would actually want all these positions.
Correct. But we are up to staff on the paid people, on the paid personnel.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Police report?
Call for the month of December 2023. 1 animal stray, 20 agencies assist, 1 child custody, 1 dead on scene, 1 disturbance, 12 fire EMS calls, 3 fireworks, 2 loud music, 1 mental health, 1 open door, 1 silent 911, 1 suspicious circumstances, 4 suspicious vehicles, 2 traffic complaints in the city, 18 traffic stops, citations, 46 traffic warnings, 4 trespassing, 1 violation of city ordinance, a total of 132 calls.
Thank you. Building inspectors report?
7 new homes currently under construction, 1 CO issued, 1 new house permit issued, 1 plan review is in process, permits 49 issued, 42 permits closed, 2 replats ready for recording. Marina bulkhead 40-foot test pond been drove, received some new engineered plans for the repairs they're gonna do to the bulkhead. They're gonna reinforce it. Let's see, we got non-compliance ordinance issues, 3 red tag notices, 2 bulkhead notices, 12 site reviews, 2 by complaint. Efforts continue on the ordinances. We spend a lot of time on the ordinances now, it seems like lately. And of course, I am hopeful that we can fix the LPG tank ordinance because it takes a lot to get it presented. I gotta try to get people up here. I mean, there's a lot goes into just issuing an LPG permit nowadays. Anyway, the rest of business is usual.
Thank you. Ordinance Review Committee?
Okay, so you have in your packet to look at 6.1 tonight, where we changed the definition to above ground improvements in the front setback bill line. The most important part of that, like it's on the front setback line, is no habitable living area of the house is allowed within that area. So that's something y'all will decide on tonight. And that will hopefully eliminate some of this stuff, like all the propane tanks and stuff that are on here tonight that y'all have to go on. So that's 6.1. So item number C on the agenda.
It's item C.
C. So okay. And the other thing is, I have a question, is that on item number H, which is ordinance section 6136, and who wrote that ordinance, and why did we write that ordinance, and why are we trying to pursue it?
Which number are you saying?
136 concerning the boathouses.
It's item H on the agenda.
Item H?
Because that
Shall we
ordinance,
talk about that when we get to H?
We'll talk about it when we get to H. When we get to H, we'll talk about that.
can I have input when we get to
Yes,
these?
you can.
Okay. All right, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Emergency management report?
Yeah, continue to watch the cold weather. We had our last really cold night tonight. Down in the 20s, mid-teens in the wind chill. Classes, second week of my advanced academy finished last week, which is great because I was hearing all the state calls about the weather. And that just got a PIO class, we're meeting Thursday, so I'll get a little more information, better messaging.
Okay, thank you. Animal control reports in the packet. General business and action items. A, discuss and take action to amend emergency management ordinance 1-94-1, section 12-22 for clerical error, striking the county of Childress and replacing with the county of Galveston. Motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. B, discuss and take action on resolution 0116-24, calling for the 2024 general election to be held on May 4th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
C, discuss and take possible action to amend Chapter 6, Building and Construction, Article 6-1, definitions above ground improvements in front setback line or build line. Okay, motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss. So I read through it. Option 2 seems like a positive revision of the language. So currently says above ground improvements defined as walkway, steps, open porches, and extensions of the eaves of a roof. And what's proposed is option 1, which hopefully you guys have already read. Option 2, above ground improvement is defined as extension of the house, such as walkway, steps, open porches, and extensions of the eaves of a roof. That seems pretty straightforward in better language. So I had no issue with that change.
So you're proposing we accept the recommendation by the ordinance committee?
Yes, I am.
I have a question.
Go ahead, it's still a discussion.
So by adding extension of the house, you're saying, Steve, that this is gonna approve essentially anything out there in front of the building line?
You're not extending the house. What it's saying is you could put anything from the slab to that into that 20-foot build line, which is basically the property line. So it could be a carport, swimming pool, propane tank, anything that's not listed on those 4 things. Because this, I don't know where the confusion got, but 6.1 has always been geared around residential construction, the building itself, the house itself. And somehow we got away from that. So if we down the road, if you want to regulate swimming pools or carports or whatever it is, propane tanks, they need to go, like propane tanks, if you said no propane tanks in the 20-foot bill line, that needs to go in the propane tank ordinance, not in there. This strictly pertains to the structure itself. So we don't want, in the habitable living part of that's important because we don't want somebody to try and skirt the rule or the ordinance and build a mother-in-law quarter in that 20-foot that's not attached to the house. So the living area part of that's important. There's no living area past the back build line where the slab of the house is. Now, as y'all approved overhangs here recently.
The back build line of a house, you meant front line?
The front line, I'm sorry. So
Okay.
Y'all recently approved over a couple of them where variants where you can go over on the first floor. Y'all recently did that. But this is for the slab itself. You correct me, Darryl, if I'm wrong, if I said that wrong, so.
No, we just can allow those things, it's gonna stop the restriction stops the house or any living area being past the build line unless they come to council. But the extension of things on the house, the eaves, the porches, things like that, can go past the build line. That's the way it's been interpreted for years.
So
But
why
what's
is
your-
it that we don't want the house coming out that any farther than we're allowed?
And the
The slab,
finished wall of the
the
living
slab.
space does stop at the build line.
So what's the point of the ordinance is what I'm getting at? Because I think it's parking.
It's what,
Why are we restricting to that dimension? Why are we restricting the house to leave that 20 feet?
that's what's been,
Well,
But what's the purpose of it?
so the house doesn't come past, the slab basically doesn't come past 20 foot of the build line, which is recorded.
I understand the math,
I
but
think,
what's the
Hunter,
purpose?
I think maybe, I think that may have been put into place because of this over here where I live, Tiki Yacht Club Colony.
Yeah,
That doesn't have, it's not part of the deed restrictions.
right?
So
yeah, Ray actually put that
I
ordinance in
think that was,
effect.
I think that was put
There's
in
a-
there to stop them from doing anything, building past that. So, but it covered the whole island, but I think Ray may feel,
Yeah, the village had no stick in the fight if this section's without deed restrictions wanted to build all the way to the property.
And why, that's what I'm trying to get at. Why is that a problem? Why is it a problem to build to the property line?
I think it's sidelines and easements and all that, I would assume.
No, the easements are in front of that.
No, it's not.
So it's not an easement.
Nothing's behind, so if you look at Alder's, where that 20 is, there's no easements behind that. Everything's in front of that 20-foot building.
Right.
Front to the street.
That's what I'm getting at.
The 10-foot
An
utility
individual
one
buys
is
a
the
piece
big.
of property and they have all that property, but we're saying you can't use this for a house. I realize it's always been that way, but I think the purpose of the law, we need to understand before we talk about all these variances that are coming up tonight.
Okay, let me stop you, please. Okay,
That's
so
what
if you go to the property line, up to the front of the property line, you can be dealing with utility easements too.
Yes,
We
sir.
have to stay behind the utility easement.
Yes, sir.
So that 20-foot build line stopped you from having anything in the easement part there. Now, for as going any further, it was just something that was put in, like they said, to stop these people from going up into there because they had no rules and regulations to make it consistent with the rest of the island. But we have to be careful what we're doing in what you're saying, and now you're just wanting information, is that you have the utility easements there.
I understand that.
So that's the 10-foot.
There's a lot of space
So we
between
can't-
where the utility easements end and where we say you can build a house.
So there's another 10 feet. So,
Mhm.
so I think we all get the utility easement, and then past that is another 10 feet to the 20-foot line.
Mhm.
What's
My
the background
opinion
of that?
is that when you drive through a subdivision, it could be in Katy or West Houston or Cy-Fair or wherever. If you drove down through some of those subdivisions and all the houses were within 10 feet of the street, it would be like you were driving through like a condominium complex or something. I mean, I think this is I've never owned a house that didn't have a front building setback line. I had, my house in Spring had a building setback line. And I promise you, nobody even asked to build in front of it, but they were going out of town. But anyway, I think it was originally people in Tiki, because it's in the deed restrictions, I believe.
That's correct.
And so I think originally they just wanted a better looking subdivision with a view as you're driving down the street instead of having the houses all right up within 10 feet of the street.
it's just the opposite of Bayou Vista, where their setbacks are on the canal side, where ours are on the street side.
Right.
And if you drive through Bayou Vista, Tiki's, in my opinion, is much better because you have a bigger backyard, front yard, whatever you want to call it. As far as parking and stuff there, you don't, so all their space is in the back.
Right.
So, but
In planned neighborhoods, I mean, that's where that comes in usually.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of subdivisions that have a 10-foot build line, I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah, there's 2 points there, right? There's aesthetics, which you talked about, but there's also parking, which is an issue in a weekend community like we are to a 50% degree. And that's something that's important, I think, to a lot of residents, is that everybody's got that parking. So as we talk about putting stuff in front of the house, and how much do we allow that, I think you have to look at each case, because if you have 3 lots plotted into one piece of property, and you want to put something up in the front over on the side, you're not inhibiting the parking of that one structure.
But as we mentioned before, and I don't disagree with you there, but as we mentioned before, that as long as we just restrict the living area out of that, that 20-foot belongs to everybody. You, the homeowner, and you pay taxes on that. You have to pay taxes all the way to the street. So that's what we get back to, other than you can't put a house there, how can we restrict, people and tell people what they can and can't put in that 20-foot bill line that they pay taxes on? You can go, the only way, or the correct way to do that, in my opinion, is it needs to be done through a deed restriction, not through an ordinance, but that's just,
But you guys are telling me it is in the deed restriction. If it's in the deed restriction, it's a moot point, because we all agreed to it then when we basically bought our house.
It is indeed.
Except for the deed restriction.
Except for the one.
Except for when they wrote the ordinance for it to make it correspond with the deed restriction.
Okay.
Yeah, so but for us coming back, the 20-foot build line is a necessity.
Well,
So to circle back, we're talking about a definition. We're not actually talking about the 20-foot build line on this one.
correct,
specifically.
well, technically you are.
You are, because you're talking about putting
Yeah.
something past the 20-foot build line.
We're talking about, go ahead, yes.
Right?
Yes, we're talking about something that is not the concrete slab,
That's correct.
That's correct.
right? So
That's
we're
correct.
not actually talking about a physical habitable structure that
That's
goes
correct.
beyond the 20-foot build line.
That's correct.
So
It's definitions
But
of sidewalk,
If
steps,
I
porches.
might say, my interpretation of this is that you're essentially saying that anything else can go in front of the building setback line other than what's an extension of the house. Anything.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Except the living space, that's correct.
But I can put a
So
big carport
this-
there as long as I don't connect it to the house.
you put a
So this
carport,
is,
fire pit.
So how is that any different than building a house if we're talking about the aesthetic benefit of having a big setback?
It's not. The thing of it is this is basically an end run on what we approved in October. So, of course, I'm opposed to it already, but I just don't like putting in a thing in section 6-1, which applies to multiple ordinances. The definition now says you can put anything other than extension of the house in that 20-foot, in front of the 20-foot building easement. And-
But we've always allowed that, Alan. I mean, that's-
Please don't say that, because, we'll never change anything if we always do what we've always
And it's
allowed.
really restricted to a 10-foot area, it's not 20-foot.
Right, it's actually up to the utility easement. Yeah.
That's sacred ground, the utility easement is done.
So
But you're
before
just saying porches and so forth can extend into it, and that's why they listed it that way.
Which it kind of says that now. I mean, it basically says that.
It absolutely does.
Above ground improvement is defined as walkway, steps, open porches, and extensions of the eaves
Those
of.
can extend past the build line.
That's what the definition is.
That's essentially at this point all that can extend past the building line, the way it was originally written.
So that's what we're going back to, if I understand. We're going
No.
back to the way it was originally written.
No, they've added that,
They've added extension of the house. So what's been added, it said extension
Right.
of the eaves of a roof.
Of the house.
No, so read the way it is currently in there. Above ground improvements defined as walkways, steps, open porches, and extensions of the eaves of a roof. Doesn't necessarily define that that roof is part of that house, just as a roof.
That's why I think in fixing it, we mentioned the house,
Right.
it's saying extension of the house, that's what it's saying. So
not
you're
just-
talking about the structure.
Right. She started off with the fact that she agreed with the recommendation of the ordinance committee.
For
Right.
option two,
For option 2. That's kind of where we left off.
for us, for the wording.
Right.
Since it's specific,
if we
that
do
it
that-
has to be an extension of the house.
Yes, ma'am. And if we do that, Daryl, then it gets to where you don't have to come to this board all the time for every propane tank question like you have been, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I second what you said.
what about if somebody wants to put a lawnmower shed out there, store their lawnmowers in?
Yeah,
That's
There-
a deed restriction, the way I look at it. It's not.
Well, what I would do, just like I did with.
Is it in the
this
deed
patio
restrictions for that
structure,
though?
We have a patio structure,
be a
wants to
deed
go past the build line, y'all make the decision.
You can't tell, I mean, this is me, maybe she can.
But if it's not in the deed restrictions,
I mean, if it's not in the deed restrictions, who's to restrict if you want to put a Morgan shed out there?
Well, you can't do that because it's they're flood regulations.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying, whether it's a fire pit or a gazebo or whatever, I mean, who's for us or y'all to say we can restrict that? I mean, to me, that would fall under a deed restriction, and if we didn't want to do that years ago, it should have been the deed restrictions, but.
What if
Because people, I
Gary, what
think
if
people
somebody
get,
builds a big
There's
old
a-
huge outdoor kitchen and barbecue pit out 10 feet from the street right next door to your house? What do you think about that?
If it's approved by him and they follow the deed restrictions and the ordinances, I can't do anything about it, so.
Well, you
they
could,
consider
the way
their
it's
property.
written right now, you could. You could say it can be there, but it can't be in front of the 20-foot bill setback line.
I'll tell you, hey, I'm no ordinance expert, I'll tell you that all day long. When this happened back after, I remember before October, we didn't have 4 or 5 people sitting in here asking us where they could put their their propane tank. And then after October, the room started filling up with people asking us where they could put that. And I just don't think that should be what we spend our time messing with. I
Let me
think he should be
let me
able to
make this
regulate that.
statement. It has always, well, it has been for 20-plus years that any variance that Darrell deals with has to go to this body.
I understand
It's
those
always
variants.
been in the deed restriction.
But before October, we weren't talking about.
We just,
propane
what we were doing, we
variances.
just weren't, we were flying by the seat of our pants and not getting them approved.
Well,
It
that
was
seat
the
felt
Wild
pretty good to
West
me
out
at the time, because we weren't wasting a lot of people's time in this room getting our approval on where they could or couldn't put something that he would have approved anyhow, because that's his job. That's how I look at it.
That's not his job. Matter of
He did it-
fact, his
he did it
job
before.
description says he cannot approve variances. Yet he
Before,
was
we didn't have
doing
a
it.
problem with propane tanks, did we? Were we come into this body for propane tanks?
No, we didn't have a problem because Darrell just let them do it. But it's specifically
It was
in his
allowed.
job description, it's in your job description that you cannot allow people to have a variance.
That it
you
wasn't
agree with
considered
that?
a variance.
Well, if you look at 6-1.
When you
it was.
changed the wording in there and made that, put those 2 words in.
6-1 didn't change.
Yeah, but that was, the intent was,
Somebody
You
other
know,
ordinance is not this one.
I
This
was,
is a definition, not a.
this is why, I blame this on Ray. This is why.
Oh, my God.
Don't put deed restrictions and cosmetic issues for the board to approve. That's, I mean, it's.
So what Alan is saying, 6.1 has not changed, as it was always. It could be defined as walkway, steps, open porches, and extensions of eave of the roof.
Of a
That
roof.
never changed.
A roof,
A roof.
any roof.
Of
Don't
a
say
roof.
house, stick a roof out there, put an extension on it. I mean, if we're gonna be pedantic with a shed, right? If I stick a roof out there and then I do something off of it, it's a roof. You didn't tell me it has to be an extension of my house. If we're gonna wordsmith,
The
then
eaves,
let's
of
get
the
very
eaves of the
specific.
roof.
I'll be honest with you, I don't think the way option 2 is written would actually accomplish what it is y'all are trying to accomplish.
We got problems with the pool too, if you put a pool out there right now. It's just like propane tanks, that's fine. You know, you're restricting pools.
We allow fences out there. In fact, I could give a variance for a fence now.
Yes, you can.
I'm just being honest.
Well, and you and I had this discussion, you might not remember it, but you said you felt like homeowners were putting pressure on you to do things that weren't in the deed restrictions, were in the ordinance.
No, that's part of my.
And so I said
I'm
that if-
Mr. No.
I said that if we bring it like the ordinance is currently written, it's not in your job description to approve variances at all, 0. Other than you just said we just changed fences. So I said, well, if it has to come to this body, then it's no pressure on you. You just bring it here, we say yes or no. Unfortunately, most people say yes. And we have LPG tanks all over the place.
Well, and I'd still say we're in conflict with our LPG ordinance because the LPG ordinance does not say you can't put it past the bill line. That's where it needs to be. Then it's no.
By
Then you gotta get a
definition,
variance.
by definition, it would.
if you look at the deed restrictions,
Okay, so
if you look at most deed restrictions, you can't, the deed restrictions say you can't have a permanently mounted propane tank to begin with.
Yeah, but that's why we did a propane ordinance. It was a
so-
lawsuit. Once it got settled, we did an ordinance.
So those are still in the deed restrictions though.
So can we bring this back full circle? We have 2 proposals from the ordinance committee to change this definition. If we're gonna accept either of those, or are we not gonna accept those? If we are, let's vote. Well, we have to vote no matter what. Is there alternative language that this council wants to propose the ordinance committee review and then bring this back at another meeting? Because this is doing nothing, what we're doing right now.
And does the committee have a preference on option 1 or 2? Is either one okay with the committee?
Myself, I prefer option 2.
And the committee's made up of who, Steve?
Myself, Daryl, and Freddie Carmichael.
I mean, it's extensions of the house. That's what we've interpreted as. You know, I mean, I've worked for prior mayors and councils before, and that's where, and when Ray wrote that ordinance, that was the intent. That's what the intent is in the deed restrictions.
But we don't have a copy of the deed restrictions here tonight, do we?
No, and you have to go through each section.
Which one? That all?
Yeah.
There's
And we
section
don't
by
enforce
section.
them either. So if we went with option 2, the way I'm reading it, we would still need to approve LPG tanks.
No,
Why not?
because it's not, it's not an extension of a house.
Extension of
Oh, and
the
you're
This is
saying,
above
okay,
ground only.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
That's what I said, you can have chicken coops, barbecue
Right.
pits, you name it. If you can think it up, you can put it in front of the house.
That's actually the back, that's another thing people get confused out here. That driveway is actually the back of the house. The canal side is the front of the house. You can drive any house, any street out here, you don't see this big, beautiful house with picture windows looking over your driveway. They're all the way in every deed restriction, it's in every deed restriction that the canal side is the front of the house and the street side is the backyard. So that's one thing too. I mean, we didn't write the deed restrictions, they're all put in place before we all got here, but that's the way they're written and that's the way they intended for it to be, so.
I'd rather have variances coming out for LPG tanks than to turn people loose, put chicken coops in their driveways.
Well, I mean, I follow my, if council wants to see anything other than LPG tanks, tell me. We can make that happen.
Well, Daryl, anything that is not within our building code has to come to this body. That's the way it's written. And I didn't, nobody here changed it, maybe Gold did, who's been here the longest. I'm just telling you it's the way it is.
I think it was interpretation.
Well, there's no, Bridget she might weigh in on what an interpretation of your job description would be in the law.
Without a deed restriction, can the board actually tell people what they can put and what they can't put in that 20-foot?
We don't enforce deed restrictions at all.
I understand that, but as an ordinance, can they tell people what to put, what they
Yes.
can put, and what they can't put in
And
that
fine them
20
if
foot?
they don't.
Yes. Yes.
You ought to make an exception for pools and LPG tanks and everything else that comes to the
Yes.
board.
Yeah,
Yes, that's the
You can do
answer.
that.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's what you need to
Yeah,
do.
we need to write an LPG rule and
LPG
then,
and swimming pools
Are
yeah,
allowed.
are allowed, everything else
Add those to the
comes to.
definite.
But that's a separate issue than 6.1, because
No.
6.1 is only above ground, correct?
Above ground pool.
Yes, yes,
It has nothing to do with LPG tanks.
Well, if they're above ground, but there's some are
definitely
underground.
don't
You need
have
to,
pools,
you need to specifically call.
less than 1% of them.
I would be in favor of tabling this, redirecting the ordinance committee to address LPG tanks specifically
And pools.
and pools, and come back to us next month.
Yeah.
Do we have a subdivision ordinance, Daryl?
Not on me.
But we have one?
Oh, yeah.
So it'd
No,
probably
but
be an
no,
amendment.
no, there is no subdivision ordinance. No, there isn't.
Okay. Where would would this change only be in the building standards? Or building and construction, chapter 6, whatever?
This is in the definitions
Right.
in the ordinances, to start with the
It's in
construction
the
part.
chapter 6 building.
Yeah, building codes and.
Yeah, I'd bring it back.
Okay. I'd make a motion that we table this and redirect the ordinance committee to come back with some more specific language.
And can you put in there specifically, and to bring forward an ordinance that would have exceptions for pools and LPG tanks?
And bring forth an ordinance that would address the ongoing concerns with LPG tanks and pools between the street and the structure.
And then
Anything other than, that way, if it's patios, barbecue pits,
Well,
whatever.
that could be,
Anything else?
they'll have to work on it. So right now, we're getting a motion. So we have a motion to table,
I second that.
and then by Hunter Neblett, we have a second by Patty Walker to table this and bring it back with different verbiage.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Motion to approve? We have that? We have a
Yeah.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Hopefully this gets us to the root of the problem.
Okay. D, discuss and take possible action to approve in, yes,
But there was another one in here about the build loan. Did we talk about that?
we're gonna bring it all back to it one
Okay,
time,
got it.
okay? We'll just overhaul the whole thing and bring it back.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, D, discussion and take possible action to approve in-ground LPG tank placement within 20-foot build line at 415 Neptune Circle. Okay, let's get some discussion on this. Can I get a motion to discuss? Okay, this thing says that you're approving an in-ground LPG tank within the 20-foot build line. Okay, Darrell?
Actually, the filter's here. He had a surveyor actually go out and mark the 20-foot build line, and it's probably, there's a corner, it'll be underground, but the pedestal itself is actually behind the build line, but the tank, you know, to me, the footprint of the tank is still the footprint of the tank, whether it's under the ground or above the ground, and it extends over a couple of feet, you know, on one corner into the build line.
Correct.
It says that your LPG tank is within the 20-foot build line.
It would technically be, about 3/4 of it would be within the build line, but the build line is on an angle, so a portion of it would be over the build line. Not within any of the easements, but outside of the 20-foot build line. But buried.
Underground, you wouldn't be able to tell.
No, not at all. No.
I just have a question. It's not possible to put it where it would be in behind the building?
Not without some extensive costs.
Well, I'm looking here, there's a triangle, and if you moved it 15 feet one direction, you'd be behind the build line, but still in front of the slab.
Unfortunately, the pool builder, which I'm not the pool builder, has a bunch of underground piping and everything else in an area that would not allow us to put it there. I tried to move it closer to the driveway, which would allow us to do that, but it's just not in the cards.
Well, is that shown when the person made the application to build a pool? Was all that
No,
shown?
and that's gonna have to change too. This house was before the ordinance changed. This would have been allowed prior to,
How would it have been allowed?
because we allowed it.
You would have approved it.
That was my orders.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, in the future, I think if there's gonna be pool equipment, and maybe the piping should be shown, because I think underground tanks might become more popular than they have been.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not.
Seems like a simple revision to the form, the
So-
pool application form.
You're saying that's why you can't put it back over behind?
So I cannot put it closer to the driveway, which is, if you look at that front angle, if I was to move it closer to the driveway, I would be able to get it within the 20-foot build line, but there's 10 or 12 pipes for that pool right in that area. So what I'm trying to do is get it as close to and again, we had a survey done, but I don't have the information on it yet, but I'm trying to move it as close to the driveway as I can without obstructing the piping that's currently underground for the pool.
So the head of this tank is within the 20-foot
Yes, sir.
build line.
Yes, sir.
You're just talking about a third of the tank body.
The gas line running to the house is
Okay,
within the build
let me
line.
finish, please. The head of this tank is within the build line.
Right.
We have a third of the tank that's underground on the other side of the build line,
Yes, sir.
is what this basically is.
Yeah.
So 2/3 of the tank is within the build line, and the fill is in the middle of a tank, and it's within the build line, within inside of the build line. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Motion passes.
Thank you.
E, discuss and possible action to approve LPG tank placement in front of 20-foot build line at 1603 Castleton.
Motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
I have the same question. I don't know if the person's here or not. How come this one can't be moved behind the 20-foot building setback line?
Well, I'm Freddie, I'm the builder. What the problem is we have future construction and we have ongoing construction. And the 10-foot distancing we have to do off of our structures and spark producing equipment the electrical panels and whatnot, we have to be 10 feet from that. So by the time we take in the future construction, and this, the only place we could really put it is right there. We really don't have any options.
That's like barely behind the utility easement. The way it shows on this diagram.
Yeah, it's pretty close, but it's not there.
I just, poor planning to me is
It's
not an
poor
excuse.
planning, it's
You
construction.
you planned this whole project out, but you didn't really, you planned on putting the tank out there the whole time.
No,
It was drawn originally behind the building line, but then
two
you
separate
realized-
contractors involved.
So which one are you?
I'm doing the building and pouring the slab for the propane tank.
Oh. So there's a different permit for what else is going on here?
Pool contractor.
There's a different permit for the pool.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when the pool permit went in, of course, now we gotta, I'm forcing people to make a decision on LPG tanks at any point that they, if it's new construction, you know, swimming pools, whatever, they need to know where they're gonna put their LPG tank, know prior to construction where it can go.
Okay.
See, a site plan is required, as I understand it, to get a permit for a pool, right? So I mean, if
I
everybody's
didn't
like,
even know
well, I
she was
can't
gonna
do
put a
this because
pool
where
house,
the
that
pipes
was a
are, and I
second
didn't
thought.
plan on this,
So-
so I moved it over here. It sounds to me like people aren't doing very good planning. and
Okay,
site
can I say something, please? So, Freddie, let me ask you a question, please. So, you're doing the house, you had an architect draw the house, or an engineer or something and done that. So, what you're doing is you're asking to pour a pad because the pool contractor came in and is requiring the propane tank, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's where the second contractor's coming in. You're just the house builder and
Right.
and building the tank slab. And then the rest of it is for the pool, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So,
So there's a house being built on this,
A pool house, just a gazebo, basically.
so you're saying that that's why that has to be 10 feet away from the tank? Or
Well,
what's out here by, the tank is out by the road, right?
No, it's not. It's probably in real life 20 feet off.
Well, I mean, what's around that tank that you said it has to be 10 feet away to the?
pool equipment up there in the front, right there by the tank, Freddie, is what he's wanting to know for the
Yeah,
electrical.
Pool equipment is right there.
It's not shown on this drawing.
They typically don't, it's kind of a.
So what they did was they didn't draw the pool equipment and now there's no place for the tank except because of the way they put the pool equipment. Now they're running into the 10-foot rule for the electrical you can't have any spark or any electric within 10 foot of the head of the tank.
The pool's already there, yes, or the
Yeah,
pool's being
yes.
built?
And the pool house might have been a second thought too after, I'm not sure when that, it was not, there would have been room for the tank where the pool house is, and then she decides she wants a pool house. That's how this stuff works.
Yeah.
Freddie, I was over there today and looked at it. It looks like the pool equipment, I see the pipes coming out of the ground right up against the back of that
That's
pool
correct.
building.
Right.
And then there's a full dumpster there. It looks like there's plenty of room.
It's going right where the dumpster is, basically. So it's not anywhere near the street. It's, when you look at the dumpster, I mean, that sketch may not be the scale, but it kind of indicates the position in relation to the build lines. And we can't go further to the west because we get a drainage easement. And so the only place to put it was just right there, you know, and it's kind of towards where the back of that dumpster is now. Actually, it is towards the back.
It'd actually be under.
That sure
where
looks
the
like that'd be
dumpster is.
behind the
dumpster's
build
sitting.
line though.
Pardon?
That sure looks like that'd be behind the build line.
It's not because it's in that radius, there's a radius there, and I don't think it is. We went and measured it the other day, pretty thoroughly.
Can I say something? Didn't y'all approve that you could put something in the drainage easement if the foundation was at ground level, not grass level, where you
Yes.
didn't flow
Yeah.
through? But now that was side of the house. Did that include the front of the house? I don't remember. That was just on the side, behind the build line, on the side. Okay. So that's
He's talking
in
about
what y'all have already approved, that you can put something in the drainage easement as long as it's ground level, but it's behind the build line on the side of the house. Okay. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
saying that thing could come back and over,
Well,
into the drainage easement, is that what you're saying?
if it was in the drainage easement behind the build line,
That's what I'm saying, which would be
that
back.
y'all can approve that.
Right.
Daryl can approve that as long as the foundation is at ground level, not grass level, and y'all have already approved that if Freddie would move the tank behind the build line in the drainage easement. What I'm saying, that's already,
He didn't wanna do that because it was in the drainage.
Yeah, right. That's
it's
why
in the
we
drainage
stopped
easement,
where
but Freddie, they passed a thing that behind the build line, left or right-hand side of the house, you could put a above-ground propane tank as long as the foundation is at dirt level, not grass level, and the propane tank sits on top of it.
Of course, I have to go verify the measurements from the
Yeah, I
electrical.
mean,
I'm just throwing stuff out here trying to get,
But we can do that.
Would you like the tank put next to your property? I'm telling you, that, I don't like that.
I'm just, hey, Daryl, Daryl, you don't have a dog in this hunt, I'm just trying to tell y'all what the rules are. It doesn't matter what somebody else would like, this is what they're talking about is on this here. Please, it doesn't matter about that, don't make that. What we done was, we did pass an ordinance, I'm just telling y'all that you could put it on the left or right-hand side behind the build line.
Right.
That is one solution.
Is there space to do that?
I would have to go read that further here, but I can't.
Goldie, aren't you about to approve propane tanks in the building line and everything?
Yeah, you can bring it back next
They're
week.
allowing them in the drainage.
Yeah, but it's
You're gonna approve this ordinance.
Put it right next to the chicken coop.
Propane tanks and pools in the building. What's the difference? That's what he's doing. Big deal. It's already approved, it's gonna be approved. It's kinda like a waste of time.
It looks like there's plenty of room to move
Also,
this
you know-
towards the water,
One of the reasons
to
they.
get behind the 20-foot line.
If we go to the drainage easement, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I don't recall the measurements, but we checked it pretty thoroughly.
You know, these
You
tanks
could
have
actually
to be
move it to the
serviced
west a
through
little bit,
this.
put it
If
in.
we can move it to the west, I think we could accomplish what we want to accomplish.
That would,
I
that would be.
would-
So does that
the
need to
thing
come back up here for approval? Is that considered a variance? Or that's,
No, he can approve
He
that,
can approve that, you don't have to come back.
and I'd be willing to make a special meeting to reconsider it if the measurements don't work out.
fair enough.
Good with that.
Yeah, you can make it.
So we're gonna table this for now, right? You're gonna go, so the proposal would be to table this, it's gonna recheck the measurements, if it can be moved behind the build line in the drainage easement, Daryl can approve it on a variance, or if not, we'll call special session to readdress this so it doesn't slow you down.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Patty Walker to table it.
Does that work for you?
I mean, yeah, I'll do whatever I'm supposed to do.
Well, we're just going by the rules, not what people feel, and I'm just saying, it's been passed like that. Okay, let's stop, okay. I've got a motion by Patty Walker to table, and Freddie's gonna look behind the build line. I got a second by Hunter Neblett. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. F, discuss and possible action to approve LPG tank placement in front of build line at 202 Catamaran. Open for discussion.
There, the LPG permit's not in here, permit application.
A lot of drawings here.
Yes, there is.
Those
I
are-
didn't see if this one is above or below ground. It's below ground.
Well, the problem is the permit application's not in here. This, all this other information is for item G, I believe it is.
That's correct. For the patio structure. Yeah, because this is for the patio cover, even. You guys had a copy of that, permit? The LPG permit.
I didn't pull it. The contractor was supposed to.
I don't know if we issued it yet or not, but they're asking for approval. I mean,
Daryl? And this is for the patio cover, this drawing here? Okay.
This
Oh, hold on a minute, please. This is for the patio cover, and there's an LPG tank on there, and that's showing the location of the LPG tank. It's a buried LPG tank, okay? And there is a permit for this, yes or no?
Permit for the LPG?
Is there,
It needs to be approved.
There's an application.
is there an application?
It's
Okay,
not in the pack, is what Alan's saying.
okay.
Right.
Now,
We don't have it.
okay, so this is a buried 250-gallon tank.
And what's that distance?
Mayor, if I could, it almost seems like we need to talk about the patio before the tank, don't we? To me, that's the bigger issue.
Yeah, seems like it should be flipped.
So maybe we should talk about G before F. Yep, I agree with that.
Okay. Let's,
We did.
let's go, hold on a minute. Well, let's go to G and then we'll come back to F. G, discuss and possible action to approve patio structure encroachment into the 20-foot build line at 202 Catamaran. Okay, now that's open for discussion and we'll go back to the other. Who wants to open for discussion?
I have one question. Oh, sorry.
We need,
I have a real quick question. This structure, will it be built to, windstorm rated?
Yeah, the engineer plans are
Yeah,
included.
okay. That's all.
And it's just the roof that's overhanging.
So it looks like there's a column here.
It basically shows that, from the drawing, if I have this drawing correct, is the outline there, what it says on here, it looks like that's a slab, and then it's enclosed on 3 sides, right? So the back, which is street side, and then the 2 sides, right? So like that, right? Is the slab, the post, and the walls, this 2 feet 3 inches that extends beyond the 20-foot building? Yes. Yes? So it's not just the roof that's gonna overhang, it's gonna be the whole,
Yeah, 2 foot.
the whole thing, the 2 feet 3 inches. So it's the whole, so if I look at it, right, the cube that's there, wall, back wall, post. Because of the angle, 2 feet 3 inches of that, which includes the slab.
On one side, and then it goes.
Right, I see the angle, but that's gonna be 2 feet 3 inches over the build line, including the slab that they're gonna pour. Is that right? Yeah.
Met the other day, he said it was just the roof line, he was going to try to move it back.
Because that's not how the drawing works that you're submitting.
that'd be a big difference.
Yeah.
There.
Harold, was that your understanding that just the eave is gonna hang over?
Well, no, I mean, that's not the way it's drawn.
So the way it's drawn,
Shows the slab.
it shows all of it. The slab and the walls would extend
In a column.
over
And the column.
2 feet, and the column, 2 feet 3 inches over the build line. That's gonna be an issue, because it's gonna be more of a structure.
It's a tough precedent.
I know, and
Yeah.
truthfully, to me, that's a bit of a bridge too far, because if something that's a slab and walls can overhang 2 feet, why not 5, why not 7?
I agree.
Can it be scaled back, so that part of it is within the is behind the 20-foot build line?
Yeah.
That
We'll have a
would be the
line of
request.
people wanting to build out.
No, I agree, so I struggle with this, because it's a step too far, if it's truly the way it's drawn.
Can the 2 foot 3 inches be brought back and then follow the build line there? You'd lose 2 foot 3 of the patio, the column there. Would that, I guess that's what they're,
I talked to the contractor and he said yes.
So maybe resubmit
So-
like that.
Oh, we don't want to have to resubmit, I'm already 4 months into this thing.
No, well, your patio cover hasn't been approved yet. The pool's been approved.
Would this council be willing to do a special session for them if they can bring back a revised drawing that shows that the structure does not impede on the build line?
Yes.
I would.
So we don't slow you down?
Because you can't really prove it this way,
No, you can't.
and it may just be that the drawing's wrong.
That's what I'm wondering, because I swear when he was at the house.
Yeah, he was there the other day, and he said just the roof was gonna overhang. I'll be happy to get him on the phone.
that won't help. But what we need to do is
No, we
just
can't.
scale this drawing back, we could just actually scale the drawing back. You know, the 2 foot 3 and just follow that circle. And you would lose 2 foot 3 right there, and then your roof, as you're saying, would then hang over.
Which is not a big deal.
That's already in there that you can hang over the build line with a roof.
That's actually what he said.
So here's a procedure question.
If they
Can
move it,
we approve it as submitted, or do they need to resubmit a
Now we
drawing?
need to resubmit.
Yeah, because.
but if they move it back behind the build line, we don't have anything to approve, do we?
That's correct.
No, I agree,
That's
I
what I
agree.
told the
If
contractor.
it's behind the build line,
That's true.
You don't have to come
a
back.
special meeting.
you don't need to, the only thing we have to approve is the LPG tank. Right?
So y'all just deny the patio.
I don't wanna,
As
Daryl.
I'm
drawn.
saying, that's what you,
as submitted, that would be correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's beyond the build line, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do that part at all.
But it sounds like the homeowners are thinking that it is behind the build line, the slab. Is that what I heard you say, you think? And it's just the overhang that's over.
So all they
And if
have
that's
to
the
do is
case,
drawing to
you're fine.
Daryl, and Daryl will approve it, and we don't have to come here.
Correct.
Okay.
You're saying that you haven't approved
Well,
the permit yet for the patio cover?
No, he brought it here for
That's
that.
what this is.
so if the post is moved back, that patio could overhang, the top could overhang.
The roof of it
The
could,
roof-
that's
the roof
correct.
can.
As long as the foundation,
Without
Foundation
have to
can.
go to the board?
Oh, I would
Yeah.
think it would have to.
Because we changed, that's the
I'm
ordinance that we
confused, yeah.
changed.
Well, we didn't approve it.
we didn't approve it.
We didn't.
No, no,
approve
no, no, we did one before, that was a variance. before.
That was a variance.
That was a variance before.
Daryl, are you,
Variance
you're
before.
thinking about the fact it's not a house. 6-1 says a house eave can overhang.
But we allowed the house to go over 2 foot, that was okay.
Yeah.
By variance.
But that wasn't foundation, that was aerial.
Okay.
Yeah, and my issue with this was it looks, from the way it's submitted, to be very
It's
specific,
very
from the way it's
complicated.
submitted, it looks like the foundation and the walls
Work.
go beyond the building.
Overhang.
If that's not the
But it has
case,
to come back as a variance.
and you guys have a revised drawing,
But we
and you
can-
get with Daryl, then you don't need our approval for your patio.
We gotta have it approved. But we could call it.
And if something does come up where you need it, we can try to have a special meeting for you to
Yeah.
not hold you up.
So,
All right, I'm willing to have a special meeting. It's up to y'all what we're gonna do now. So I need a motion to do what we can do. And if there's a special meeting needed, I can make any meeting and we can have a special meeting and we have to have that many.
Well, we're only talking G, the patio at this
We're
point, we're
talking
not
G.
talking the tank.
right,
Motion to table G, pending review of, drawing, if needed.
why can't we can just not approve it as it is here. If they change it, they don't have, we're not part of it anyway.
It's fine.
Okay, motion to,
Motion denied then.
So
Okay.
deny as submitted.
Yeah,
Can we
I'll
specifically
second.
put in there, deny as submitted?
yeah.
all right, we have a motion to deny as submitted. I have a second. All in favor?
I'm sorry, it was the second.
Cunningham. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. All right, now y'all wanna go back to F?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. F, discussing possible action to approve LBG tank placement in front of 20-foot build line at 202 Catamaran.
And it is a buried tank, correct?
It is a buried tank, so the only thing sticking up there is the head again.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, I need a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All denied?
No.
Alan Scott. Motion passes. H, discuss and take possible action to amend Chapter 6 Building and Construction Ordinance, Section 6-136. Okay.
Would you like me?
Yeah, go ahead. Discussion, please.
Are you making a motion to discuss, Alan?
Oh, motion, I thought there was already done a motion to discuss this. It turns out that there was a previous, ordinance that was rewritten in, I guess that's 03/21/01, so it's March of 21. This was rewritten and it used to say maximum height of a deck or a roof. And somewhere along the way, when it was rewritten to be 6-136, it became, they took the word roof out of there. So then it was just height of a deck. And it essentially left roof open for interpretation, as tall as you want to make it. So this has been written such that a roof with, say, a shingle roof, for example, not a deck on top, anything without a deck on top, would be a certain pitch roof, And we have about, I don't know, 3 or 4 of those on the island that are, they're flat, they're pretty flat, as opposed to a, whatever it is, 4 and 12 pitch roof. I think, I'm just speculating that the reason for this was so that when people are sitting on their back deck and they want to look out across the canal or whatever, they don't have a boathouse next to them that's, 25 or 30 feet tall. So, that's what I think the reason for it was originally. And then, I don't know why it was rewritten. It got moved from it was originally 6-145. And in an ordinance in March of 21, 145 went away and 136 was written. And then really what's done here is just defining that if it does have a roof on it, it just has to be a 2.5 and 12 pitch roof. Doesn't really say whether it can be standing seam metal or clay tile or shingle or whatever kind of roof you want to have on it.
So, let me interject something on this. So, the way it's written is, the way that it's changed to be written is, that your roof on a 2.5, 12 would not go above the 36 or 42 inches of a handrail in the back of the house. So, once it can be at the same height, the stringers can be at the same height of the deck, and then when you put the roof on there, it won't extend past the top of a handrail so you can see over it and not block anybody's view or anything. So it doesn't limit them from not building one, but what it does is the pitch of the roof is so low that it would only be 36 inches tall above the deck, which would be the basics, the same thing of a handrail.
I have a broader question.
Yeah.
So this is to amend an ordinance, but the ordinance committee didn't even review this. So why is it on the agenda if it didn't go through the ordinance committee?
The ordinance committee doesn't have to, they're just an advisory committee.
Goldie, why am I wasting my time then? I mean, I volunteer my time to do this.
I understand that,
Wait,
Steve.
hang on a second.
You did see this.
Hang on, no, hang on one
Did you not see it?
No, here's the email you sent me last Wednesday. Here is the boathouse ordinance revision attached. I'm sending this to the attorney. We had this talk 2 weeks ago. I don't have a problem with this ordinance. Daryl doesn't, we all agree we have to do something with it.
Okay.
Okay? Me and you talked. You stopped me on Tamana 2 weeks ago. We had this talk.
We talked about that, and I told you we were gonna send it to the attorney.
I agree, Goldie, we have to do something. My exact words were to you, Goldie, I agree, but this is not the time to do it. You're facing a lawsuit over that boathouse. Let me finish, please. You're facing a lawsuit over that boathouse. The Village Antigua boat. So you told me, you said, oh yeah, I understand. This is something, we're gonna put this on the back burner. We'll take care of it once all this is settled and passed. That was your exact words. And then this pops up last Wednesday. I don't want to sit here and waste my time.
You're not wasting your time.
I am wasting my time. You didn't.
Let me stop you. You're not letting me finish.
Let me finish, Goldie. He has questions. I have questions. You didn't even send it to Freddie. It didn't even get to him. So, I mean, that's.
I sent it to you. You're the head of the ordinance committee. We talked to the attorney about it, okay?
What attorney?
This attorney.
Okay.
Go ahead and tell him about the lawsuit.
As far as any.
About this
implication
being
on this.
something that will come back on the boathouse that they're talking about with the lawsuit that we talked about.
Well, I don't want to go outside of the realm of a privilege that we want to secure here. But I don't think that changing the ordinance today is going to have an impact on any potential litigation.
Right
If that
now,
even.
Bridget, it looks to me like, I mean, other than the boathouse being built already, the difference of this is no difference in the marina property lawsuit. I mean, it's like you're trying to change the rules in the middle of the game. I mean, that looks bad to me. I'm not an attorney, but if I was a homeowner's attorney that's doing the suing, I'd be licking my chops. I mean, that's ammo for them, in my opinion. I mean, I don't disagree with redoing the ordinance, but let's do it. Put a moratorium out there where we can't do any of these until we get this settled.
It will not apply retroactively.
No,
This
it
will
can't apply
only start
retroactively.
starting
What about
if
all
they
the other
pass it.
homeowners that want to stop somebody else from starting one of these
Right.
before we put a law in. We're protecting people from the next one.
Right.
We're
Yeah,
not
this
using
would
it
not
as ammo
apply.
to stop this one, which is what happened with the marina. That was before my time, but they tried to change the law and apply the new law to the old job. We're not trying to do that here. We're trying to protect the next homeowner from having
You're
this happen
telling me,
next to
you're
them.
telling me that just don't have no effect on that lawsuit?
No, the council, if there was a discrepancy or thought that we were misapplying something and they want to clarify it, that's the first thing I'm gonna recommend they do is get in writing what they want to be enforced.
Why are we
But
doing
Brenda,
it now?
since it's not retro, since it's a going
So that doesn't
forward,
happen.
hang on guys, one at a time. Since it's a going forward, then it basically has no impact on any litigation that would currently be in process because this is not retroactive. It's a forward effective date.
Correct, it's not going to do anything moving forward. I mean, or it won't do anything to anybody that's already
It's
built.
not retroactive.
That's already pulled a
Right.
permit, even if it's
Right.
not built yet.
So there's a hard line
Correct.
there that
So,
says
so nobody would have a cause of action against us that's already halfway through building. No one could sue us for that, because we're not applying it to that.
Steve, does that address your, so from a legal opinion, which is what she does for us, she's telling you right now that it's not that. So if you're concerned that it's gonna impact that, and I had that same concern, what you're telling me as our legal representative is that's not the case. It's not grandfathered in as a go forward.
Correct.
That's correct. So all we're trying to
So
do
that
is
is
stop
inside
somebody from
to
tomorrow
you.
morning going and pulling a permit to build something again that we already have problems with. And right now, we have no legal problems. You're just assuming that.
I don't know how the subject of lawsuit came up.
I don't
All
even-
right, we addressed the concern.
We should
Let's-
But that's a concern, it's a legitimate concern, but it has nothing to do with it, and all we're doing right now is, as of tonight, if they pass it, we're putting a stop to it, and there'll be no more of that.
Okay, well, let's back up. Why did you go around the committee?
Well, I probably went around the committee
Yeah,
the
you
wrong way.
probably
I'll admit that I went around it, but I sent it to you, and you were aware of it. I'm not gonna argue with you about it.
Okay, but I know Daryl does, and I have questions about this. I do not agree with the ordinance. And Freddie, it hasn't even, we haven't even.
Okay,
talked
again,
about
it's,
it.
okay,
So
I
my
apologize, Steve, enough.
Okay, so
Is
the
there a
answer
reason,
is,
is there a reason why we can't table this, let the ordinance committee review it and bring it back?
We sure can. If y'all wanna table it, that's fine. Tomorrow, if I pull a permit for a boathouse and decide to build it with a 10-12 roof on there, it's gonna be all right?
If it's legal now, we got one going up right
Okay,
now, don't we?
let me get a motion.
wait,
Hang
we're
on,
not
hang on.
done discussing.
Okay.
You guys will all chill for a minute.
I was under the impression that boathouses were governed under the deed restrictions. Is that not the case?
They might be, but it
And this
would
would
be
be in
separate.
addition to that.
That's correct.
I'll
Keep-
explain
We
it
own
to you.
this.
They give the dimensions A, B, C, D, and E. And I think I probably might have that thing here. Dimension E says refer to Village of Tiki Island ordinance something something dash 83, which was passed in 1983.
So this would be.
Go into their deed
This-
restriction.
That ordinance, I couldn't even find a reference to it, even under the list of ordinances from 1983. That's, I guess, the last time that form was updated. So that's the only real connection between Tika and the Village of Tiki Island is the fact that Tika puts a reference on their form that it's Village of Tiki Island, whatever. And if anything, they need to just update that, to probably say the most current revision of this ordinance, because in case it gets changed. So that's the connection between them and us.
Yeah, my deed restriction says I can't have a covered boathouse out over the water. I can't have one out on my deck over the water. So I think they're different in different ones.
Oh, sure.
So I have a question as well, since we're discussing. The way you defined attached. Attached as used in the previous sentence shall mean any physical connection, which not quite sure what to do with that, to the property, including but not limited to steps, stairs, walkways, electricity, water, or gas utilities. So if an electrical line runs out there, that's attached.
Yeah, well, I might add too, that, so in Tiki, you can't build a boathouse on a vacant lot. So under any circumstances, a boathouse would only be built, it could be on a lot that has been joined, like one below, but there's an attachment,
We're saying any,
That pretty well covers it if it's freestanding also.
Yeah, the electrical.
If it's a replatted lot, you're all right. If
The
it's a
reason-
vacant lot, that's what it
The
pertains
reason
to.
it says electricity, water, and gas is because 99.9% of freestanding boathouses are gonna have water. It's just a way of linking that boathouse. Otherwise, people could just go start driving some pilings out in the middle of the canal and call it their boathouse, because technically, it's not on their property to begin with. It's actually on canal property. And so that's why the big definition of attached is, because that's what we control, is what's attached to the
Yeah.
property.
okay, that's what that's supposed to represent. So this is to protect for not attached to the people that just have a lot that they're putting a boathouse on?
Well, that's in
Is
the-
that
No,
what this
that's
is?
already
That's a different
No,
covered.
this ordinance is to protect boathouses that are too tall.
It's addressing the height, that's what that ordinance is.
Yeah,
And why'd you have to put the attached?
and blocking the view.
Personally, I found that vague, because when you say any physical connection, I don't know what to do with that. So maybe legally, that's fine. Does that include a rope?
I mean, it's got electricity and water, and those are the two ways it's gonna be connected. That's
Doesn't have to.
defined. It will. I mean, you're not gonna have a
Well, if
boathouse
it's not-
without
if
I
electricity
know what
and
it, so I
water.
hope
It's
you guys,
gonna have
part
a
of what I'm
walkway
doing, a
no
lot of
matter
times we get into these meetings and we get really twisted off on words and defining what's roof, what's that. I wanna be sure I understand what this language means and how it can be interpreted.
Mhm.
Is that a problem to have any physical connection, or should it just say, previous sentence shall mean, a connection to whatever, property including steps, stairs, walkways, electrical, water, utility? Why does the any physical connection is to cover specifically what scenario in your head? I truly want to know. I'm not trying to be a smartass.
I think Alan addressed it to keep people from saying, they're building a boathouse out there, and it's not on their property.
The property stops at
At the water.
not even
No, I
at the
understand
bulkhead. It doesn't even, some of them, in my case, it stops 3 or 4 feet back because the bulkhead has been built out one
Mine's
time.
6 feet out, basically in the canal. I know exactly where mine is. I needed a Coast Guard exception to do anything, or a state of Texas exception for my deck. So
Okay, why don't
technically,
we-
I can't build off my property because I don't own it.
Okay, so you have
So that's
questions that,
not, to me, that's a moot point. I can't do that because I don't own that property. Then the state of Texas is gonna be all over me from the general land office. And trust me, they are, because they did, when we did our house.
You bring up a good question, is the coast, if you got your permit from the state, do they have a height limit?
It's just our dock, yes, they do. It's just our dock that extends. We could not have a structure.
No, that's out or whatever, and they got 10-foot setbacks, I know, I've seen the regs.
Yeah, they do.
But I can't place the height limit.
Like the deck could not extend out there. The dock could.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
they're controlling the footprint,
Yes, they are.
but not the height.
Correct. Correct. They're controlling the footprint.
That's an interesting point.
And you pay them a whole bunch of money for that
But
extension.
that's only on the perimeter.
Yeah.
that's perimeter, that's GLO based, not interior canals.
True,
Yeah.
true.
Not a truck.
I think part of the answer to your question is the first sentence says that, in this section, if attached to property containing a single-family dwelling, or
Right.
essentially any other property in TE
Or the building
3.
code adopted section.
So
attached to
that's
it.
why attached needs to be defined, because if a person goes out there and starts building out in the canal 4 feet away from their bulkhead, they drive in a bunch of pilings, and Daryl goes over there and says, hey, whoa, time out, you can't do that. And they're like, well, it's not attached to the property. I can build anything I want to build, as tall as I want to build it. So if you have electrical, everybody pretty much is going to have a walkway, you would think. It's either going to be attached to their deck or it's going to be a walkway. They're going to have most likely electrical and water, but not necessarily, but anyway. But I believe that this is going to be tabled anyway, right? So
It's up to y'all if y'all want to table
I
it.
thought we had a discussion, we were going to send this back to the ordinance
We were,
committee.
but I had questions before we tabled. Which is
Okay.
why I asked the
If
question.
y'all write this down.
Okay. All right,
Yeah, I was gonna make the motion because I heard Steve talk at the beginning of the meeting because he's on the ordinance review committee and he was not aware that we were gonna vote to amend an ordinance that his committee didn't review, and him and Daryl still had some issues on it. So I'm not a builder. I trust their judgment. I'd at least like to hear their opinion on it before we vote on it, and they haven't had a chance to review it, so I think it'd be fair to table it, let them review it, bring their opinion back, and we talk about it again. So I would make a motion that we table it.
Okay, I got a motion tabled by Gary Kaufman,
I'll second.
second by Patty Walker. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Discussing possible action concerning updates for dredging and breakwater projects. Open for discussion.
Hold on.
Is you, dredging and breakwater?
Yeah. Just gonna make it here.
Table.
Not getting more right anymore. Okay, we're on IH, that's all right.
Okay, no,
We're on L. I, H-I.
I'm sorry, yeah, we skipped, we were done with it.
Yep.
So this is just a basic update of dredging, breakwater, sort of two separate projects. Dredging is substantially complete. We're waiting on them to get all their documents in. They have to bring a bunch of extensive surveying information and calculations and all kinds of things. And so that's substantially complete. I reviewed the first batch of documents that we got, and I found some areas that I didn't think were dredged to the depth of the contract. And so I replied back to, we've been back and forth on it, and I replied back to them and said that there's some areas that, say the canals, especially over here, the channel is too narrow. It's supposed to be 40 feet wide, and if you start coming in from the outside, it's only 4 or 5 feet deep, 20 feet into the channel. And the engineer basically replied back and said they had looked at my comments, which was probably 20 small areas where they should have dredged and didn't. The engineer basically came back and said, we've looked at it and it's all good. And so I replied back and said, I don't believe you. So that's kind of where we're on that. And I said either your plotted data where it shows the dredging must have been plotted wrong, or it's inaccurate, or their assessment of what is okay and not okay is too generous, so to speak.
Did they provide they said they were gonna do like they were gonna do the underwater mapping. Did they provide
Yes.
that? And that's the one that you
That's
got
all
that you
it
said
said.
is not right. Well, that ought to be pretty
Their own data.
straightforward.
And particularly, this is called DA, is it DA? Dredge Area 12 is this channel that runs from the Tiki Channel over to the corner houses over here. There's several areas in through there. I think there's supposed to be 8 feet in the channels, right? And 6 feet in the canals, I think it was.
No, it's 8 feet at the mouth,
Yeah,
where you
right.
entrance into the mouth of the channel.
But
Where you come into our houses, at each entrance to the canal into our houses, we could go 8 foot deep.
But I thought that was an extension on out, and I thought they did the Tiki Channel 8 feet.
No.
Leaving.
No, there's just only the extensions. They gave us the extensions at the mouth of each channel going into the house.
Well,
That they were gonna dig a
nonetheless.
8 foot, and that was gonna be a catch over for the silt to come in and try to fill that in before it comes into the canal.
Yeah, so anyway, over here anyway, there's some 3 foot, some 4 foot places, that sort of meander out into this DA 12, which runs back over here. My kind of problem with that is that boats get up on plane there and run 20, 25 miles an hour, and they have to pass each other. And so if you've got 3 to 4 foot depths in there, and then in the wintertime, they become 2 to 3 foot depths, then you're gonna have boats going like this, dodging the,
Also, the fact that we paid for one thing, you got it.
yes.
Yeah.
But the question is we don't know what's there, it's just that the paperwork says one thing and their requirements said another.
Yeah, well, other than the fact that I got in my boat and drove through this one. DA 12 I know about because I drove through there in my boat, and I was driving along, following in between the markers, and all of a sudden I looked down, I'm like, I'm in 4 feet of water, right after it was dredged, and so.
Have they provided?
So your point is, back to them, is prove it, sounds like.
Yeah, and of course, one thing I learned from this, which is interesting, my past history with working for the state of Texas is that the contractor never hires the third-party inspection company, whether it be concrete testing or any other kind of testing. And in this contract, in this contract, the contractor hired the survey company. They paid them, they hired them, they paid them. And so it just kind of didn't dawn on me until later that that the fox was guarding the hen house, you know? And I don't know that if the law requires that or not. I know it requires it on state school construction. All testing has to be done by an independent third party, which technically has to be paid for by the government entity, not the contractor.
But getting back to what you said though, the drawings they sent you of the depths is where you first picked up on it, that you had 3 foot versus 5.5 and 6 foot. So it was their data that they sent you that you reviewed that had the discrepancies in it.
So can we specifically request from them, basically what's the equivalent of a subsurface map, right? They had a canal plan that basically showed what the depths and dredgings were supposed to be everywhere, right? We have what we agreed to, which was the design, which has the depths, which has everything. They should overlay on that, basically the subsurface map they have done, or I call it subsurface map, basically the contour map, which is topographic map, that would be what the actual dredge soundings are that they did for their survey. From that, they can make a difference map, which will be able to show us specifically everywhere where they're off.
Yes.
Those
and I have
areas,
that.
they should be able to come back and redredge.
He has that.
If you have that, then I would like to see it.
It's in Brandy's. It's okay.
Because that, if they've done that.
It's in Brandy's office.
If
I've
they
already
have done
gone
that,
through it.
literally, as.
We have a copy of it there, and then also I talked to the engineer
Anybody should
today,
do.
and they're supposed to be sending us something that we can look at and view on the internet. It's gonna be large, and they'll set up a site for us to all go to, and we can look at it there.
Right, we can go to, and they need to do it in cross-section view as well. So
Yes,
not
they're
just-
doing all of that and sending
basically
it to
not
us,
just
but
plan view,
they haven't done it
cross-sectional
yet,
view.
so I mean, this is forthcoming.
And we still have a payment with
Yes.
them, or we pay
We're holding 10% retained.
Yeah, I would hold
Yeah.
that. So
So we
that
have,
should
we
be,
have a stick.
300 something thousand.
that should be relatively straightforward, because if
Yeah.
they do it in applicable software.
Thank you, Alan, for your work on that.
We're gonna be able to see it.
The other item is breakwater. I don't know if we talked about this, I'll be brief, but anyway, as it turns out, the breakwater is designed so that all of the panels have to be within 1 foot of the mud line. And the thing changes from out here at the far end towards the east, I guess it is, southeast. The depth changes from, say, 6 or 7 feet, 8 feet. Around the corner, it just keeps getting more shallow. So out about close to a half of the panels are more than 1 foot and as much as 3 feet.
We went into some that were
Yeah.
4 foot.
Above,
No, so what happens is they put a 5-foot panel. There's a discrepancy in the drawing. It shows that they put a 5-foot panel, but then also it shows in the drawing that the bottom of the panel must be 1 foot from the dirt, the bottom of the dirt. So Alan and I went out there and we measured it. And some of the panels at the very end start at about 4 foot and they come down 3 to 4 foot. Then it comes down to the end down here, it's about 2. And when you turn the corner, it's still 2 foot from there, but as you go that way, so I'd say the first 50 or 60 feet when we turned the corner going that way was about 2 foot. Then it all started coming into play, that it was all coming in pretty good. And then at the end down there, they had to make some shorter panels because the water wasn't deep enough. A 5-foot panel would have been 1 foot in the ground or better. So like he's saying, when we measured it, it runs 4 to 2.5 foot down here, and then it turns and goes that way to nothing. So it's,
And the idea of the whole, I didn't know this, I asked the engineer, I said, well, what's magic about the 1 foot? And they said that slows the water down as it runs underneath so that the silt drops out right there. And so if you got a 4-foot opening, it doesn't really slow the water down, it just goes rushing.
Goes from
through.
turbulent flow to suspended flow. Which allows.
so the water hits
You know,
the
if you're
panels,
trying
and then the dirt hits and settles, and then the water's supposed to run through, but when it's more than 1 foot.
So, and we're holding some of their money too, and we don't want to hold any of their money, but we're making sure that they do what the contract requires. And then we're waiting to hear back from the breakwater guy. He's gonna propose what to do on that, make longer panels or something. So it's a pretty big deal really, because
Yeah.
you got barges involved and all that stuff, so.
is the 10% enough to make him wanna come back and fix it?
No. Not really.
No.
It was a $1.4 million contract.
We're still got 200-something thousand dollars.
Yeah, we actually have more than 10%.
We have more than 10% of his contract. So also with the discussion with, the engineer today when they called, they are in negotiations with him. They're going to, they're working out some kind of plan for design to how to lengthen the panels, where they can use those panels there and go in, and so they're working on a design. They're gonna get with the contractor. I asked them, and the contractor's one is now saying, which he wants to be paid for some of it because he's got a discrepancy with the drawing. So I told him to give me an engineer's estimate of how much it would be and then get an estimate from the contractor, and then that way we could compare the engineer's estimate and the contractor's estimate to give y'all something to talk about when y'all get ready to make your decision. So that's all coming forth, and they'll be all brought to y'all, and you will have all the paperwork from the engineer when he gets it done. He didn't tell me any time, he said coming forth. So then we'll be able to make a decision on what's gonna happen on the breakwater part. So that part, that's just part 2 of it.
The fun of construction.
Thank you for that update.
Okay.
Okay, there's no more discussion on that, we'll close that. Is there any more discussion on that?
Breakwater or dredge?
No, just wanna see when they do the overlay maps, as they should.
It'll be all
as they
available
should
for
do
y'all when they send it
Done
to
right
us.
the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, so the procedure was they do a pre-dredge survey.
Yep.
They do an intermediate survey right after they leave a canal to make sure that it was dredged right.
And then they do
And then they do a final.
Right.
And so somewhere in between there, somebody should have caught these areas that are shallow, and they didn't. So,
As long as they give us the 3 overlays, so if there's actually 3 surveys, they should overlay all 3 of them. And then we can look at that, and then there shouldn't have to be, back and forth, it'd be pretty obvious about what needs to be fixed, but thank you for all the work, Alan, yes, I should have said that.
Jay?
Okay, we'll close the discussion on I and go to J. Discussion and status of I-45 construction at Tiki Island.
Brandy got this information from TxDOT, and I just thought it might be of general information for the public. But I guess one of the first things is noted that all northbound traffic will ultimately be diverted onto what you see on building right now, that overpass. I don't know if you remember up at NASA Road 1 for the longest time, the freeway went off. 3 lanes went on what was really designed to be 2 lanes. We're gonna have a year of that. And then that traffic switch.
You said that's going northbound, Alan? Yeah, that'll be that.
Yeah, when you come off the causeway, you're gonna kind of veer right, you're gonna go over that overpass, and you're gonna basically ride the feeder road down to almost to 146 and then get back on the freeway there. And of course, during that time, they'll be demolishing the other overpass, which fell apart last summer. And then that traffic switch is scheduled to take place Q3 of this year. So we got 6 months or more of whatever we see out there now. The other thing they noted was that both the northbound and southbound ramps for Tiki will remain accessible through all of 2024. Whatever that word means. I think it means we can use them. But anyway, that's a key thing. I'm not real sure when they divert the traffic onto the so-called feeder road, exactly what we're gonna do. I think at one point.
You gotta go to Galveston. As soon as that happens, you gotta go to, about 6 months, 8 months from now, you're gonna have to go to Galveston.
We're gonna be making a northbound, we'll be making a horseshoe back to come in, and then they'll reverse it.
71st or, one of those, so.
And then they followed up by saying that they're well aware, Brandy had asked them to, be sure and keep hurricane evacuation routes and things in mind, so they've got that on their radar, and their deal is they'll clean up the site, they'll ensure that all the drainage elements are empty and clear for drainage, and evacuate, and then the same kind of holds true for, it was also mentioned, emergency vehicles, ambulances, and things like that. They're well aware that they have to continue to provide Tiki with ingress and egress for emergency vehicles. And then the last thing, final completion of the project Q1 of 2028.
If they stay on schedule.
Exactly 4 years from now.
That's like to all the way to the causeway, right?
Yeah, that, as a matter of fact, that's essentially all of Interstate 45
Yeah.
southbound,
Yeah.
when they get that done, so.
I heard you right, the Q3 change, where we go from down on the, to the 2 lanes instead of 3,
No, it's gonna be 3.
But it crammed into the
But
same
it's-
space.
in the same space during
No shoulders.
Q3, which is high hurricane season. Okay.
Right.
I don't know if they're gonna wait, maybe they're gonna wait until after hurricane season to make that switch. But anyway, it's gonna be where there's 3 lanes of traffic and no shoulder on either side.
They can't make,
Pretty much what it is right now, in a lot of places.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
they can't make the switch until the feeder road's done.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Okay, any more discussion on that?
Thank you.
Okay,
One thing, so it says in here that, right, they'll email tkion@comcast.net. Who's specific, I mean, I know that's a general one for us.
That's great.
When those come in after hour, like they did a crap job this weekend, right? They sent something on Thursday, you guys posted Village Tikion, that was great, it came out through the notification system. It basically said they were gonna be done through Friday, and then that changed, and their hours were wrong on what they gave us. And then they closed it on Saturday, but nobody got any notice of it. 'Cause
It originally
apparently
said through
TxDOT didn't
Saturday.
do us.
The
Yeah, it was
original
originally
thing
was
was
through
through
Saturday, and then I think they
It
ended
said
up pushing
completed
it
by
up.
Saturday, but then they came back and said Friday, because the one we got said through Friday, the email I got said through Friday. For sure.
Yeah,
you're
they changed
I think
it.
it started Saturday, and then they said they were
Then
gonna
they
be done
backed
by
it up.
Friday, and then all of a sudden Saturday was.
and then they posted on the signs again that it was gonna run through Saturday, when I
Yeah.
went towards you.
And the times they gave us and the signs didn't match, because I was going back and forth during the
Well,
time. So,
I don't know if there's much we can do with TxDOT.
Yeah,
on
they
that.
give me, it's actually, is it Williams Brothers?
Yes,
They're giving the information to the engineer's letting me know.
okay,
And so.
and Steve, you know that
there've been 3 or
engineer
4
up here in that trailer
times.
house.
yeah,
There's
That's-
3 or 4 times that they told me they were going to close it, and I
Okay.
put it out, and they
Right.
never did.
right.
So it all
See,
depends
I
on
don't think, Randy, they
Williams
sent,
Brothers.
And they don't always, like, and you can discuss that when you come up with communication, is, they don't always send those, they're not required to send any notifications out.
No, because you can go to the internet and look at it yourself.
Yeah, only on a total closure, a total shutdown of the highway, and they're required to give 7 days notice on that. But on this alternating lane closures, they're not required to do anything on that. They do it at a, I guess, courtesy. But when you're not here, like Thursday, I don't think, when they decided to go ahead and do it Saturday, originally they said it would be done Friday. You're off on Friday, so, but I don't think they sent an email. Did you get one from them?
No, I got the original one,
Yeah,
but I
see,
never
don't
got
think
a
they did-
follow-up.
I don't think they did that, I think,
Not for the change.
so.
I just saw there was some guy named Cattle-Check on Facebook where I saw it.
We should
All
also,
right.
several people told me to, because we told, and your wife has been great about this, to tell people to go and sign up for the alerts. I think when we did the switchover of the website from the old platform to the new one, some people are getting those, the emails they used to get, and some aren't. So just try to encourage people to go back and check and make sure they're signed up and they're getting the alert. I'm not getting the text anymore at all. The only thing I'm getting are the emails.
I don't think anybody's getting text, Randy. I'm not. I get emails, but I don't get text.
I'm not
prefer
getting the text from
but
the
I like
alerts
it.
at all anymore.
And I'm signed up.
Okay, let me talk to Revise about that and see what the problem might be with that.
Okay, we have any more discussion on the 45? Okay, let's close the discussion on 45 and go to K, discussion and possible action concerning communications.
Sorry, I just thought of something, my bad. Who monitors, there's a massive, when you come off Tiki, off of the causeway, you know, where they rejiggered it and everything, there is a massive pothole in the middle of that, which almost took out my front wheels. Are we responsible for that? Is TxDOT supposed to be, who's supposed to be fixing that? It's huge. It's gonna like
That's
rip off
TxDOT.
somebody's axle.
I would say the contractor probably.
Yeah.
But how do we get them?
How do we
talk to
tell
TxDOT or
them?
how?
Because it's only the people that are
We
actually doing it.
we can email the engineer she's getting her. And then tell him about it and let him
It's a
take
very
it. Because he's in
The northbound
communication
exit
with,
in front of us, that's
okay,
where she's talking.
he's in
Yeah.
communication with the contractor, the engineer, so let's email the engineer and
Okay.
have them take care of it.
It's a very large pothole.
Okay.
I've hit twice now.
Okay. K, discussion and possible action concerning communications. It's open for discussion. And Gary, you put it on there.
I did, and we can't take any action because I was too broad when I said communication, so we're just discussing. So you hit one of mine, which was, I wanted to talk about the text message, because I'm not getting them either. So I wanted to find out, you know, like EEOC, or if we had a hurricane, how are we supposed to communicate with everybody? I think most people want text messages. That's Blackboard now, if I remember right? And I'm not getting them, it seems like nobody's getting them. How do we get that turned back on?
Well, that's what she's gonna do is check.
Wait a minute.
And how do you know it's not working? Like, it's not working and you didn't know it's not working, so is there a way to
You'd have to
test it
tell
on a
us.
regular basis?
Yeah, let's go back for a minute. You're saying the Blackboard one, because when you said text earlier, I thought you meant from the website.
Good question. I
Well, the
thought
website
there's two
is
different
Blackboard.
systems.
No. There's two different ones.
I thought that we had Blackboard before, and then we went to Revise, and then we were supposed to sign up for text from Revise. I don't get either one of them, and I signed up for both. So I went on the website and looked, and you can sign up, it says Blackboard at the top through the website.
Correct.
So it should be Blackboard is my understanding,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not getting any text
I'm not getting any
at
text from
all.
Village, so I used to get text from
From
Village
Village.
of Tiki Island.
Me too.
I'm not getting any.
So
And I'm
the
signed up.
water department sent some out.
That's,
So in the
that's
water
not the one I'm
Nobody-
talking about, but I get the water department ones.
Text?
Okay, well then
Not
I,
their text, I only get the
Only
water
email.
department's email. I get no more text from the village
Hey,
or the water department
Hold
at
on,
all.
let me get- So just to make sure we're all clear, so we're not getting any text from Blackboard for the village. When the water department sends out a Blackboard, it's an email with an attachment you have to open, which is very
Correct.
problematic if you're on your cell phone. So I guess the nature of me putting communications on here is they're not very good. And we need to find a way to make them better. And I think most people would like to have a text message on anything important, like we're gonna shut off your water, or we have a hurricane, or they're gonna move a house down Tiki Drive. Whatever's important to us, I would think should be a text. And the water district. So I'm getting the water district emails, but I'm not getting any Tiki Blackboard either. But, yeah, so I at least want to talk about if we can fix that or investigate.
okay, well, I am sending them out, but it's not something that, so you didn't get one when we had the shutdown here? Because I put it on the website and then I sent it by Blackboard.
I got an
Only got
email
email.
from the
Email, but no
village,
text.
no text.
So the whole problem is text. Just check out.
Oh, okay. Because you're getting an email because that's how I'm sending it. I will have to turn around and send it by email, go back in, send it by text, go back in, send it by phone. I don't have an option to say all of them at one time.
So I think I did it recently, Brandy, but I think when you go to sign up, it gives you the option how you want to be notified.
Yeah.
And I said like email and text and probably not phone. So by choosing those options, text is still not working. Text was
Okay,
my primary option.
She said she'd have to send it
I know,
twice.
so you're not sending it to anybody by text, you're sending it to
Correct,
anybody by email.
correct. So
how
what
do
I
we-
think is that might be, and I don't know because I haven't actually tried to do that through Revise, so I would have to try to do that to try to send it to myself, because I'm not sure that's actually Blackboard saying, how do you want it? It might be Revise, because when I get to Blackboard and I send one, I can do it by phone, I can do it by text, I can do it by email. But I cannot do all of them at one time.
It's all separate.
It's all separate, so I would have to type it all in, send everybody an email.
That's
Then I'd have to
Blackboard.
come back.
That's Blackboard. We bought a whiz-bang website system that's a separate system.
But we were having problems with that.
Randy,
And so we went back to them putting Blackboard on there.
So the issue is them trying to get Blackboard to work through their website.
I
It
think
sounds
so, Gary, but
I wouldn't go that way.
again,
No,
I would have to go sign myself up on there and see that issue when it's asking you all that.
Brandy, I will
Because I don't
volunteer
recall
to
when I did it
use
through
your test
Blackboard.
animal. Use me as your test subject.
Okay. I don't remember when I went through Blackboard and I was actually signed up, which was many years ago for me to get them. I don't recall it asking me, how do you want to get your messages?
That may have been changed when we went to the new website. I'm
Well,
not
that's what I
sure.
was gonna say, Steve. I
I'm
think
thinking it's
if
a
I remember right-
combination of Revise and Blackboard.
Well, if I remember right, when we tried to set that up.
There was a problem.
There was something with on their end, their program or however it's written, they couldn't do text
That's
messages.
correct.
So that's when we said, well, screw that, we gotta have text messages and emails. And now I thought we switched strictly to Blackboard at that time.
And we are doing Blackboard.
Yeah.
Nothing
I thought we
is.
did away with the revised notification because we couldn't do text messages.
Well, when I change anything on revise, I think it's notifying you of anything that's been added or posted there, correct? Are y'all getting anything from revise when I?
No.
So what
Blackboard.
I don't know, I get the email from Village of Tiki Island. I
Okay.
don't look at where it comes from Village of Tiki Island. But I was getting text notifications for things, and I know I'm not, and I've pulled around enough people that nobody is. So I would propose that a couple times a year, start of every year, we should test all of our communication systems, make sure they're working. And then in May, prior to hurricane season, we should retest our systems to make sure everything's working. I do agree with Gary, though, that a lot of people are going to want to get text messages because not everybody does the email on their phone, and especially if they have a business phone, they're probably not going to put personal email on there. And so to have that.
Yeah, I mean,
option-
it's not a problem. It's
Yeah.
just that I would have to go down the line and do an email, send all that, and it'll take, by the time it circulates to everybody, you have to wait. There's a little bit of a gap, and then when it's done, say 8-9 minutes, it'll allow me to go back instead of me having to go in and retype that whole thing. I could take it and say I need to reuse this, and then go back and hit it with everybody on the text. I can do that, but it doesn't give me the option to go in there and do everybody at once and all different.
I do think we're going to have to give people multiple messages.
So what's going to end up happening is if you're signed up for email, you're signed up for text, you're signed up for phone, you're going to get it 3 times.
But that's okay. I'd rather get it 3 times and have access to it because most of the time these are going to be things that like you really need to know.
Right.
You're not doing this daily.
No. I mean, I either
This
do
is
it as an
closure, it's
emergency
hurricane,
or,
it's chemical release, it's
construction, something.
right. So I think for us to make it easy on citizens so they have multiple methods of being notified is just part of our responsibility.
Right. But I think there was just some confusion with the revise and the Blackboard, because I didn't drop Blackboard because I didn't think revise was going to be able to provide what they told us they could in the beginning. And
So maybe if you needed a test group, I'm sure we would all do it at the table if you needed to try to work out any keys to get the text.
okay, yeah, I can do that tomorrow. I can send it.
Most people would pick text before email in today's world, right, to be notified of something important.
And I'm relatively easy now because I don't have 18 emails like I used to.
Yeah,
God.
I was just kind of confused at first when y'all were saying that y'all hadn't got anything from the village, and I'm like, well, I know I'm sending them, but
Only
it's
the
email. Okay.
Well, and
Okay, so we're gonna do the text and we'll set that up.
that guy that came in here, I was here that night that he sold Revise.
Yeah.
He was full of it, man. He was full right up to here of all the, they're in 3,000 cities all around the world and all this stuff. And if you ask me, and I don't know, I think the village pays some money every year
Yes, we do. We have an
to
annual
use that
subscription.
system. They ought to be providing some support, and if their system doesn't work, then they should figure out how to make it work. If it's maybe easier to use than Blackboard or easier to maintain or whatever, but if there's 3,000 or 4,000 cities using Revise, I'm guessing they don't all have a problem notifying their citizens.
So I volunteered to be on the communications.
Well,
committee, and I'm happy to work with.
I'm glad we're
This
still
is all
using
about-
Blackboard because everybody is signed up on that. There's not a whole lot of people on the website
We're gonna change
getting
that.
those notifications, so it's best.
Well,
to
the
be
website
with
though,
Blackboard
is,
anyway.
in theory,
Anyway.
it maintains a database and it sends out text from Revise.
That's correct. That's
It
exactly
has
how
that
it's sold.
capability.
That's how I sold it, that if we were to post anything and you went and signed up on the website to be notified of anything that I put in the calendar or the
Okay.
police department, or he does, whatever, that you guys wouldn't be notified that,
So can I make a suggestion that I'm happy to work with Brandy, set up a meeting with the Revise folks, right? Because I've been playing with the website. Let's set up a meeting with the Revise folks, tell them what we need, and go back to them. Again, we're paying them already. We've already migrated. And tell them this is what we need. In the meantime, I can go look at other websites, talk to other people that use Revise,
you know, what's the service that's being provided to other communities? We expect the same. So, I mean, that shouldn't be totally your responsibility. I'm happy to take that on and work with you so we get what we need from them. If they can't, find another platform.
Okay.
You're hired.
Any other discussion?
Yep, I do. Let's go on to the topic of communication. So we used to do our minutes by cell phone, I guess we post those, right? And then we had the video guy for a while. We fired him. And so I think the last time we had one posted that I could find on the website was October of '23. That was a video recording. What's our plan going forward for that? I know we don't have to do it. I know but we've chosen to do it, and then we didn't do it. So we're not consistent. So I'm just trying.
We're going to hire another company.
We are.
And Steve is getting ready to find another one to hire. They were gonna try to use the video recorder here and go through some steps and maybe get us an iPhone and we do it. The answer is no. We have the money to hire a professional to do that, and that's what we need to do. And that's what we had. He just wouldn't show up. So Steve is going to now take it upon himself, and he's gonna get us another one that does this for a living, that instead of us trying to Jake leg it or whatever, we have the money to pay for it, and that's what we need to do. So this was an attempt tonight, but it doesn't work.
Cuts
I
off.
didn't notice that.
Okay, but it doesn't work.
It doesn't get the
It
whole.
doesn't have a broad enough frame.
We would look better on a professional camera.
Yeah. So anyway,
How we get.
so long and short, we're hiring, we're gonna find somebody that might be able to show up to do this.
Okay, cool. Thank
Gary,
you.
the last one was that, so it was the video one was the last
I
one
think it
you were
was
just talking
October
about?
23, yeah, I was just
Okay,
trying to
but
figure out kind of
not
before you.
not the actual written minutes.
Yes,
Those were-
ma'am, the ones that recorded.
He's looking for video only.
Okay,
Yeah, before it was cell phone, if we had some audio and,
yeah.
I know we don't have to.
The
but
last
we
guy
decided
missed 2 meetings, that's why he's no longer our vendor.
to- Yeah, I understand. Got it, thank
Okay.
you. Okay, and then the last thing that, since we're communicating, is to talk about kind of the marina. I know it's a private development, so I know it's technically their business, not ours, but every single one of us drives by it every single day to come on the island. And since the bulkhead disrepair hasn't been repaired yet, it'd be great to kind of get an update if anybody knows what it is.
Okay, so what's happening?
I'm not taking more stuff further. My understanding initially was that they had to do the bulkhead before they could build villas, and that the villas were already sold. But then I've seen advertisements to where the villas all have prices, so I don't know if they're sold or not. Maybe it's none of our business, but
And it's correct, but I can tell you about the bulkhead.
you can tell me about that. That's what I
Okay, so I talked to the owners, and then I also talked to the contractor and the engineer. They're waiting on what they're going to do is they're gonna come in on 8-foot centers. Is it 8? 5 foot? The engineer redesigned it, and the problem was that the panels were too sharp and it kicked out, so they're waiting on Pearson to get the panels here, and it's gonna be at the end of January. They're saying that the panels should arrive to the project. At that point in time, they're gonna drive the new panels, line it up, and then they're gonna take basically those posts you see out there, and they're gonna add one more wailer to it to keep it a horizontal board, to keep it intact, and then they're gonna drive these posts 5 foot in front of it all the way down to keep it from kicking out. Now, that's the last, and we don't know anything until end of January is when the material arrives, and the contractor is supposed to be starting as soon as it arrives, so that's the latest.
What's the permit situation over there? Are they still on an open construction permit that stays open in perpetuity?
No, they've been advised they have to renew their bulkhead permit again.
That they're gonna have to renew it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They've been renewing it as needed.
they've been renewing it, we're not
Yeah.
gonna not give them one.
No, of course not, but if they break their promises, which they've been known to do about timelines, we might be inclined to send them, some kind of a violation letter.
Well, what violation letter are you gonna send them? It's a private project, as long as they renew the permit, and if they decide to quit doing it, what are you gonna send them? We
Okay.
have no right to them.
Okay.
So you're gonna write them a letter telling them they have to finish something that they own.
Yeah,
You have to finish your house, you can't leave it there.
and there's no law on it. Go ahead, Steve.
Just to clarify something Gary said, they can't start building until the bulkhead is complete. They can sell them,
Yeah,
they just can't start construction, is that
They can't
correct?
start construction, and that's the deal, they can't start construction until the bulkhead.
Well, yeah, no, I knew that to be the case, but at one time I heard they were sold already, which you're thinking, hey, as soon as that bulkhead's ready, they're gonna go vertical, but then I see that there's a lot of them for sale, so maybe they're not. That's fine. Well, only other question is, if a homeowner had a bulkhead that they were repairing and it fell into disrepair like that, same process?
Yes, same process. But as long as they have the permit out there, they're making an effort, Daryl's working with them on it. But after that, if they stop, I mean, the only thing is Daryl could send them a letter and it'd be the same thing
As a homeowner?
Yes, that's it.
Let's face it, I don't, they must not have sold a bunch, or they'd be moving a lot faster on getting that bulkhead done, obviously, so.
I think you're probably right.
I think they're taking their time because they got time.
I think you're right.
That's an assumption. Any other discussion on that?
Right, because they have exclusive on that.
Is there any other discussion on the communications?
If we can follow what I talked about earlier from, about getting some information on how we're notified in case of emergency from guest parking people here. How that, and Mike made on that.
Steve, let me close out communications and we'll go to citizen comments and let's bring it up in that. Is that all right, Steve? Okay, we're gonna,
You told me
since
to bring
we're,
it up on this one, though.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah,
to bring it-
yeah, you did.
Bring it up.
okay, we can bring it up. Go ahead.
So, for example, like the marathon last week, obviously working in Tech City, I get an email from Joseph Tubbleson, who is the emergency manager coordinator, because I work for Tech City. And if I was at work that day, obviously I would know immediate time that there was an emergency within Tech City. Now, with that being said, with that leak specifically, you know, when I got the first email, it specifically told me exactly where the leak went to. There's a, got it, had it in my head. The permissible limit, each chemical has a permissible limit that you could be exposed to for a certain amount of time. That's how they calculate how dangerous that is, and when they decide where you can actually start the shelter in place and the rest is good. So for example, the wind direction of speed for that leak was not coming anywhere near Tiki. Therefore I was like, I don't even know if I anywhere. And the reason why they shut it down at 45 is technically their permissible limit is a little bit past, but there's no reason not to just take it all the way to 45 because you're already shutting down Highway 3 and 146. So there's no reason for Steve, whoever in this room, to drive down part of 146 and then go, oh, look, they have the road blocked off and I got to turn back around and come to 45. They notified Lamarck, but I don't know how they notified Bayou Vista or how they technically notify us, because that would be the dispatch after they open up the EOC. And at that point, that should be the dispatch contacting the sheriff's department or contacting the station here. So with how Bayou Vista did not get notified maybe is also the same issue we've always had with Galveston County Sheriff's Office is they don't work for us as far as Tiki or Bayou Vista.
So we don't,
They, for example, a house fire, Steve Cunningham's house fire, they contacted PD first, EMS second, fire department last. How does that make sense? I don't know. I've contacted Margo, who runs supervisor. She's like, well, they have a list. Well, this is the list they do for whatever, and that's what they always do, because they are PD dispatchers. It's strictly pretty much PD dispatchers. So therefore, if they're relaying the information to us about a leak, they're not calling the station. But of course, at the same time, giving information like that over the radio, you just want to advise that Marathon has issued a level 1A, level 2B, whatever that may be, because every little number and letter means something different. You're not going to say a lot on that. So technically, you'd like to get someone on the phone, whether it be him, me, the person at the station, somebody a call if there was going to be a threat to the community. But again, that would be them relaying that to them and them relaying that to us. And unfortunately, I mean, we have an active 911 system with the sheriff's department that they only have to click a button after they get everything typed in, and the button gets clicked. What'd you say, Steve? About 50%?
Maybe 70.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. If it has no concern to our community and it's surrounding us, are they gonna notify us? No, they're not.
Nope.
So whatever Steve heard about Bayou Vista didn't concern
Yeah.
Tiki Island, so they're not gonna notify us.
And just because Bayou Vista may have had a smell, may not have been a concern because they weren't getting any of the permissible limits past 45. Yeah, the smell's gonna travel. Just like you can smell, the mercaptan in natural gas. way past where you're actually gonna pick it up at. Smells of chemicals travel, and then once you get a little bit in your nose, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't go away for a while, depending on what the chemical may be. So, the EOCs all work together. Joseph Tubbleson was a captain of mine, town chief of mine, great guy, knows exactly what he's doing. So if he thought there was a threat to Tiki Island, he would be contacting him, I'm sure he has your number.
Yes.
Plus, he has access to the blackboard and has everything, access to
And
everything.
he
But
knows I'm the fire
what I
chief.
wanted to make a point was, though, if it's not a threat to us and it's across the street from us over there, they're not gonna call us.
Right, but there is a system in place.
There is a
If it is a threat to us, they will contact our emergency management coordinator.
And then he does
who
put
has
it out
the
on-
ability to put it out on Blackboard.
That's correct.
And can you do, Michael, can you do that from home if you're not here? Put it
Oh,
on-
yeah, he can do it from his phone.
Okay.
Okay, good to know.
Did I answer your question, Steve?
For that incident.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
but
So I guess my thing is, like I told Gary, I mean, I was a firefighter for 17 years, worked in that plant for 27 years. I always err on the side of caution. You know, you cut corners and you do stuff half-assed, it could cost you your life. So I look at it as, no, it doesn't affect us, but it could. All you need is a slight wind change. And then you get the vapors over here, they were sulfur dioxide, it was not harmless, but.
Yes, we were monitoring that.
So, yeah, that's my question. I mean, and that's what the EOC guy told me. He says, well, maybe we should do that courtesy call. And maybe you could talk to him and ask him. Because it's just us and Bio Vista.
At that point, he's busy enough. I've got the message from him already. I've been notified through his system.
So you're aware of it when it happens?
I'm aware of it.
Okay.
As soon as he presses it.
And I'm aware of it pretty much about the same time.
Same time. With that message,
Who makes it? You make the call
so
for shelter in place?
I get the message. I relate to Goldie. This is what Texas City's got going on. At that first message, didn't know what the substance was. I was on the phone while texting with the county. Hey, knock on the weather service people's window. Give me a plume model of what they've got. And got that within a couple minutes.
So,
To which,
but EOC is gonna tell us that we can issue shelter in place. When it's necessary for us to, and it's dangerous for the village of Tiki Island, that won't the
I will give you
Texas City
a
Emergency Management?
recommendation. Yes or no, it is ultimately your decision, because you're the director.
Mhm.
You're the director by the state of Texas. I work for you.
Yeah.
If he says send the order.
But the recommendation will come from.
I will recommend.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
that,
Michael, you have 24/7 ability to
Yes.
get that to citizens. That was, that was.
okay, that answers my question. Appreciate it. So, but
If-
one step further, Mike. So that comes from Texas City from the
Yes.
plants. You have a barge incident out here
Yes.
that, and you're releasing chemicals flowing this way. We don't have Texas City EOC or the plants for that
As
notification.
soon as I'm also on Galveston system. They have something happen, because obviously they'll probably get an alert quicker than we will. I'll get it from them, and then act accordingly. Same thing.
Cool.
Which way's the wind blowing? That's my first question. Which way's the wind blowing?
So I guess.
Are we gonna be in the short?
I guess, finishing all this up, so there's four things that, that can affect us, the plants, hurricanes, the bridge.
The train?
You probably lump the train in with the plants, and then barge traffic out here, those four things. Do we have any, because I've asked.
Pipelines that run all
Yeah,
over the railroad.
yeah. Pipeline Railroad.
So I asked, when I was on
Runs
Alderman,
under
and I
it.
haven't received it, I can't find it. Do we have emergency action plans? I don't guess that's really the right word, because emergency action plans, the first step is mitigation, but you can't mitigate stuff you can't control. But,
We're talking about a protocol. Do we have emergency protocols?
do we have protocols in place for, we have a Cat 3 hurricane comes through here, barge hits loose in Galveston, takes out that bridge. We have no way on the island, no way off. Do we have protocols in place to address that?
We are under the county's emergency operation plan. Supply Vista. the smaller municipalities. The county covers us when stuff like that's gonna happen. So, because we don't have the infrastructure.
Right, I guess, so I'm assuming they have a specific plan with our bridge.
We are on their plan. I give them a call the day after, hey, our bridge is gone. We need to get some sort of mechanism to get across.
So, also, when we had that last one, when the county staged all their equipment, you remember they staged it at Santa Fe School up there? The last time we had a little hurricane and everything. So they staged it up there and we were in that part of the staging if we needed some of that equipment. But some of that equipment was allotted to Tiki Island if they needed to bring it here.
And separately, we had our own plan with an independent contractor and a contract in place to mobilize equipment at a predetermined rate and help us respond to post-hurricane situations.
And they sign that every
I'm
year.
not so worried about the cleanup part. I'm worried more from the resident safety standpoint. You know, how are they gonna get notified? You have a barge accident out here, the first call that guy's gonna make is to the Coast Guard. And so the notification is gonna be from the Coast Guard. Who's the Coast Guard gonna call? They're gonna call Galveston? They're gonna call the fire chief, police chief, you know?
Go ahead.
Well, the first phone call they're not gonna make is to the Coast Guard. The barge crashes out there, the first phone call they're gonna make is to their boss.
Absolutely.
No, I'm being completely honest.
Oh, yeah.
The second phone call is gonna be the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard's gonna notify us via radio or through the sheriff's office. Him will get involved as well. We had multiple, not barges that's out there, but we got called, this is about 13 months ago that I was working. They called us, wanted to know if we had a boat that we could send out there because the barge crashed into, or I shouldn't say crashed, it went into not so deep water because they got off the shaft. Yeah, right around, there you go.
Okay.
And I said, no, we don't have a boat. I asked what was going on, and they told me, and I said, okay. The Coast Guard was en route. Coast Guard is gonna get their mitigation team out there. They have a team that works.
Michael, if you notify us via text, via Blackboard, do you do that, or do you have to go to Brandy to send it out, or do you have to
No.
go? So you can text everybody already now today.
Yes.
So do you have our numbers? Can you give us a test and see if Blackboard texting works from you?
Can work with Brandy on that, yes,
I mean, all this is great stuff, but if the text doesn't go out, it doesn't do much for anybody, right? And to me, that's the primary thing that we need to get working is text notifications for any of these issues, right? And then, you know, hey, it would be great to send one out June 1st and say testing.
Part of this is, when we send out messages, like Brandy was saying, we don't wanna send out messages. Everybody's gonna get a message for T.
I don't disagree, I just like
They're
one
gonna,
minute.
no, it's another message. And it's not gonna be that important message.
We just need to make sure the one we have works.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right.
Is there an ability to just send it to 5 people? Or is it Blackboard to 1,200 people?
No.
You can go through and pick and choose, but that's real hard. Like when we do street construction, I don't send it to everybody. I go down and I have to go through
Yeah.
everybody that lives on that street, pick
Yeah.
them out. Then I have to move to the next street, pick them out. Right.
Yeah.
So we can pick them up. Okay, is there any more discussion on communications?
You're welcome.
All right. Citizen comments. Please state your name. Comments limited to 2 minutes. Steve?
No, I just want, no, I don't have anything. I
Okay.
just want to say, you know, you probably knew that. I had a little incident the other day, a couple weeks ago with my AFib, when I went for my walk and heart rate got up real high there, and I walked back over here and sat at the bottom of the steps and called Adrian, and Adrian and Josh come down and walked me, got the firefighter to come down there and check me out. They actually called an ambulance, and we ended up canceling. My daughter took me to the hospital and get it all time and belt put back on right, but I just want to appreciate, I mean, the professionalism of, you know, these guys, you know, having those guys here like we do is great, you know, so I appreciate that, so makes you feel a lot better.
Any more citizen comment?
I have a question. What's the status on police car? Have we ordered a police car?
No. That would have to come through us here. We're waiting on the second proposal.
Oh, okay, so that's.
Okay, so we get that and then we'll be in good shape.
I
We're
was
just
curious.
trying to make sure that they're all gonna be high, but it is what it is.
Everything's high.
Yep. Any more citizen comments? Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Motion granted. Thank y'all. Motion passed. Thank you.